The first night I heard footsteps in the hall outside my room. I told myself it was the house settling. It was an old house. Early 1900s, the landlord said. He seemed proud of that. I wasn't, but the rent was cheap, and I needed cheap. The footsteps stopped right outside my door, and silence. I waited. Nothing. Eventually, I convinced myself it was pipes. Would anything but footsteps. I turned over and forced my eyes shut. The second night it happened again. Same rhythm, slow, measured, like someone walking with purpose. Step, 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 then stopping directly outside my door. This time I got up. I opened the door quickly, almost hoping to catch someone. The hallway was empty. Just that long stretch of narrow floorboards, one flickering bulb at the end, and shadows that didn't sit right. They looked stretched, too long for the distance. I stood there longer than I should have. Something about the air felt used, like someone had just been standing there. By the third night, I stopped checking. That was my first mistake. The house had 3 bedrooms, but I only used one. The other 2 stayed locked. The landlord told me the previous tenant still had belongings inside. He'll come back for them, he said. He never did. A few days later, I asked again. His name? I said. Gerald, the landlord replied. How long was he here? 11 years. That stuck with me? 11 years in a place like this? Where did he go? I asked. The landlord hesitated. Then he just left. I didn't push further. I should have. Week 2, I found the marks. They were on the inside of my bedroom door. At first I thought they were scratches, wear and tear. But they weren't random. They were organized. Tallies, groups of 5, neatly carved. Over and over, from the bottom of the door to the very top, too high to reach without standing on something. I touched one. The groove was deep, careful, deliberate. This wasn't panic. This was routine. I counted a few, then more. My hands started shaking around 50. There were hundreds. Someone had been counting something. For a long time, that night, I couldn't sleep. I kept staring at the door, at those marks, trying to understand what you count for that long. Days, hours, nights, or something else.
Right.
The footsteps came again, but this time, they didn't stop at my door. They kept going, slowly past, then to the end of the hallway, then back and forth, like pacing, like waiting. Then they stopped, right outside my door again, and then I heard it, breathing, low, slow, right at the bottom of the door. Like someone crouched on the other side, listening, waiting for me to move. I didn't move. Not for a long time. Morning came eventually, when I opened the door. There was a fresh tally mark on the floor outside. The wood was pale, newly cut. I called the landlord. No answer. I sent him a picture. 4 hours later, he replied, "Don't worry about that." That was it. Week 3. The second bedroom door was open. I knew I hadn't touched it. I stood there for a long time before going near it. The door creaked when I pushed it open. Inside dust. Still air. But in the center of the room, a chair, facing the window, and on it, a folded blue bathrobe. Neat. Like someone had just taken it off. I checked the closet. Empty, but the floor inside had scratches. Long ones. Dragged lines. Like something heavy had been moved in and out. Repeatedly. That night, I recorded audio. I didn't trust my ears anymore. I needed proof. I woke up at 3 a.m. Footsteps again. Pacing. Pause. My door. Not random, not guessing, exact. And at the bottom, for fresh marks, I had been there for weeks. That's when it hit me. These weren't made by Gerald. He wasn't marking time. He was tracking it. Like me that night. I didn't sleep. I just watched the door. At around 2:47 a.m., the footsteps started again. But something was different. They were slower, heavier, closer together. They stopped at my door, and then something pressed against it. Not a knock, not a push. Just wait. Like someone leaning their full body against it. The wood creaked. The dresser shifted slightly, just an inch. but I saw it. Then the voice came again. It's clearer this time, right through the door, right next to my face. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. It's then a slow scraping sound. From the other side, right at the floor. Morning came. Eventually, I moved the dresser, opened the door. The hallway was empty. Same bulb, same shadows, but on the floor. There were now 5 fresh tally marks. I went back inside, sat on the bed, stared at my door. If I make it to morning, there will be another mark. And if I don't, I think I finally understand what Gerald was counting. It wasn't time, it was turns. The house wasn't special. That's the first thing I tell people. It wasn't creepy, it wasn't abandoned, it wasn't in the middle of nowhere. It was just cheap, and we needed cheap. My daughter was 7 months old when we moved in. Lily. She had just started sleeping through the night, and my wife didn't want to lose that. So she bought a baby monitor. Nothing fancy, just a camera in the nursery and a small screen on my side of the bed. Green night vision, constant feed. The first night was normal. Lily slept, didn't cry once. I remember watching the screen for a while, just making sure she was okay. The slow rise and fall of her chest. Second night. I saw it. At first I didn't react. My brain didn't understand what I was looking at. There was someone standing in the corner of the nursery, tall, too tall, standing behind the rocking chair, facing the crib. I sat up immediately, grabbed my phone, turned on the nursery light remotely. The room lit up, empty. I stared at the monitor, waited. Nothing. So I told myself what anyone would. Night vision, distortion, shadows. I lay back down, kept watching, and slowly, the shape came back. After that, I started watching every night, not casually, carefully. It always appeared between midnight and 2 a.m., always the same corner. Behind the rocking chair, it never moved. Not once. No steps, no shifting, no sound. Just standing there, watching Lily. I didn't tell my wife. She was already anxious. The baby, the move, the new place. I didn't want to make it worse. By the second week, I stopped trusting the monitor, so I started sleeping in the nursery. I told my wife I wanted to help with night feeds. I moved the rocking chair, put it in the exact spot where the shape always stood, and I sat there, waiting. First night, nothing. Second night, nothing. Third night, just Lily breathing. The white noise machine humming. On the fourth night, I must have fallen asleep. I woke up suddenly. No sound, no reason. Just awake. I checked the time. 2:14 a.m. Something felt wrong immediately. The angle, the room. I wasn't in the corner anymore. The chair had moved. I hadn't. There was no way I could have moved like that in my sleep. But I was there. Perfectly centered. The next morning, I set up a second camera. Facing the chair, facing me. That night, I sat in the chair again. I waited. I don't remember falling asleep, but the next thing I remember was waking up back in my bed. That didn't make sense. I went straight to the footage. For 40 minutes, nothing happened. Then, it started moving. Slowly, the chair sliding. The chair reached the center of the room and stopped. Then something entered the frame, too close to the lens. It leaned down, toward me, and stayed there. For 3 seconds. Then it pulled back and disappeared. My face, completely still, completely unaware. That night, I told my wife everything. She just looked at the monitor, then she said, "I thought you looked different," she said. "For the past few weeks, you come to bed around 3 a.m., you lie down, and you don't sleep. You just stare at the ceiling." I shook my head. "Stay in the nursery all night." She went completely still. "No," she said quietly. "You don't. We left that house the same day. No packing properly. We just left. Lily is 2 now. She's healthy. But sometimes, late at night, I still check the monitor. Old habit. I see her eyes open, not blinking, staring at me." He was always at the window. Every morning when I left for work, he was there. Second floor, right side. Looking down. Mr. Haas. That was his name. He'd lived next door for 30 years. I moved in March. By April, I'd started taking a different route to my car, just to avoid his window. By May, I was waking up at night. He never spoke, never waved, never moved more than he had to. Just stood there, still, pale, watching. My friend said I was being paranoid, old man. Probably bored, probably just watches the street. That's what old people do. I nodded. Sure, that's what old people do. But he wasn't watching the street, he was watching me. Tested it. One afternoon, I had a friend drive past. I stayed inside. Mr. Haas didn't move. Then I stepped outside. His head turned immediately, instantly, after that. I stopped opening my curtains, all of them. Bedroom, living room, kitchen. I bought blackout curtains, thick ones. The house got dark. It's too dark. So I left lights on all day, every room. Darkness felt worse. I installed a camera on my porch, just to have something. Proof that everything was normal. The first week of footage was fine, then Tuesday night. 11 p.m. the motion alert woke me up. Grabbed my phone. The porch was empty, but the camera caught the edge of Mr. Haas's house. He was standing there, no light, just his shape, facing my house. That was deliberate. I didn't sleep after that. The next day, I went over. I wanted to make it normal. I knocked on his door. He answered immediately, too quickly, like he had been standing there, waiting. He was smaller than I expected, older, 80, maybe more. He wore a cardigan. His hands trembled slightly, but his eyes were pale. I just moved in next door, I said. He nodded slowly. I know, he said. That made something tighten in my chest. He looked past me, toward my house. His expression changed. Something like fear. The girl who lived there before, he said quietly. She didn't know what was in the house. I watched every night. I kept watching, but it didn't help her. I stood there for a long time. Then I went home, sat at my kitchen table. The darkness didn't feel empty. It felt occupied. Mr. Haas wasn't watching me because he was strange. He was watching me because he was afraid for me. That night, 11 p.m., the motion alert came again. I opened the footage. There he was, Mr. Haas, standing in his window. But this time, I looked closer. Past him. Into the darkness. A shape. Faint. Behind him. Too tall, and it was looking at me. The next night, I sat in my living room. Lights off. Watching my own window. Waiting. 11 p.m., nothing happened. Then, I noticed something. My reflection in the glass, standing behind me. I turned around. There was nothing there. I looked back at the window, and for just a second, my reflection didn't match me. It was still standing, even though I had moved. I don't go near the windows anymore, I already know. Still watching. And now, it's not the only one. The inn was small. 8 rooms, a narrow staircase, and a front desk where an old woman sat and said very little. I was only staying one night, just passing through on a drive I had been putting off for years. The highway stretched empty for miles in every direction, and this place was the only building I had seen in nearly 40 miles. She gave me room 7 without a word, sliding the key across the counter and pointing toward the stairs. The room itself was clean and ordinary, a bed, a small table, and a window that looked out over a dark tree line beyond. But as I walked down the hallway, I noticed something that didn't fit. At the very end was room 9. The door was different. Newer, steel, not wood like the others. And there was a heavy sliding bolt fixed on the outside. On the outside, I told myself it was nothing. Storage, maybe. I locked my own door and went to bed. Sometime in the middle of the night, I woke up. At first, I thought it was silence that had woken me, but then I heard it. A soft, steady tapping. Not knocking, not banging, just a gentle, rhythmic tap. Like someone pressing a fingertip against a door over and over. It was coming from the end of the hall. From room 9, the sound didn't speed up. Didn't change. Just continued. Slow. Patient. Deliberate. I lay there listening for what felt like hours, staring at the ceiling, trying to convince myself it was pipes. Old buildings made noises. Eventually, the sound stopped. Or maybe I fell asleep. I wasn't sure. In the morning, the old woman was at the desk again. I poured myself coffee and tried to sound casual when I asked about room 9. Storage, she said. I told her I had heard tapping. She looked at me for a long moment, then said, pipes. When I mentioned the bolt on the outside, she didn't even look up. For security, she said, no explanation, no emotion. I checked out and left. I made it about 12 miles down the road before I turned around. Something didn't sit right. When I got back, the desk was empty. No sign of the woman. I went upstairs. The hallway was silent and still. Room 9 was at the end, just as before, steel door. Bolt on the outside. I stood there for a while, listening. Nothing. Just silence. Slowly, I reached out and slid the bolt open. The sound echoed louder than it should have. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The room was empty. Bare walls, single light bulb flickering overhead. There was a chair in the center of the room, facing the wall, and the wall was covered in writing, floor to ceiling. It was the same name, written thousands of times. Margaret Solis. Margaret Solis. Margaret Solis. I searched the name on my phone, a missing persons report from 11 years ago, last seen in this area, never found. I heard a floorboard creak, turned. The old woman was standing in the doorway looking at the image on my screen. She used to talk to herself, the woman said quietly, all night, just talking. I stared at her, my throat dry. You kept her here? I asked. She came to me, she said. She was afraid, said she needed somewhere safe to wait. For how long? I asked. She said she would know when it was safe to leave, the woman said. She never said. Then what happened? I asked. The woman was quiet, and she said, the tapping started a few days after she left. Left? I repeated. It hasn't stopped since. I turned toward the exit, but before I could move, she reached past me, and with one smooth motion, slid the bolt into place. From the inside,
I didn't call again, not immediately. I told myself there had to be a normal explanation. Spoofed numbers, glitches, crossed signals. My brain tried to build something logical out of it, but logic doesn't explain timing. It called me the first night someone new moved in. It didn't call for 3 months before that. It waited. I went to the apartment anyway. Late afternoon, bright daylight, people around. I made sure of that. Fear behaves differently in daylight. It shrinks just enough for you to pretend you're in control. The building looked the same. Same peeling paint near the entrance. Same flickering hallway light that management never fixed. I stood outside the door for a full minute before knocking. 3 slow knocks. Nothing. Then I heard movement inside. Soft, careful, like someone deciding whether I was worth answering. The door opened just a crack. A woman, mid-20s. Pale in that way that doesn't come from skin tone, but from lack of sleep. Hi, I said. This is going to sound weird. I used to help someone who lived here. My sister. Her expression changed immediately. Not surprise. Recognition. You're him, she said. That hit harder than it should have. You've been getting calls too, I said. She opened the door wider. The apartment smelled wrong, not bad, not rotten, just stale, like air that hadn't moved in a long time, but the windows were open. That didn't make sense. I didn't answer at first, she said, walking toward the kitchen. I thought it was spam, but it kept happening. Always late, always the same number. She turned to look at me. Your sister's name shows up, I nodded. Have you answered? I asked. She hesitated, then, once, I felt my chest tighten. What happened? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she walked toward the hallway. The first week I was here, she said quietly. I kept hearing something at night. A familiar sentence. Too familiar. What did it say? I asked. Her lips parted slightly. Then, it said, don't turn around. I didn't move. Neither did she. The air in that room felt heavy now, pressing. "Did you turn around?" I asked. She gave a small, humorless laugh. "Of course I did." A beat. There was nothing there. We stood there for a while. Then I asked the question I didn't want to ask. "Why didn't you leave?" She looked at me like that was the obvious question. I tried. "What do you mean?" She gestured vaguely around the apartment. I pack things. I decide I'm leaving. Then something happens. Something small. Keys go missing. My phone dies. Someone calls. Something distracts me just enough that I stay one more night. She paused. It's like it doesn't want the apartment empty. That's when I noticed it. The bedroom door. It was slightly open, just a few inches. And I was certain it had been fully open when we walked in. I didn't say anything. Not yet. "Have you heard anything else?" I asked, trying to stay focused. She nodded slowly. "Sometimes I hear someone in the other room, walking." My stomach dropped. "That doesn't make sense," I said. "You live alone." "I know." Another pause. "It sounds like they know the place." My eyes drifted back to the door. Now it was closed, fully, silently. "Did you close that?" I asked. She turned. "No." We both stared at it. No sound, no movement, just a closed door that hadn't made a noise. Then my phone buzzed. Loud, sharp, wrong. We both flinched. I already knew what I'd see before I looked. Her name, calling. I answered. I don't know why. Maybe curiosity, maybe stupidity. "Hello?" I said. Nothing. Then, breathing, close, too close. Not through the phone. I slowly turned my head. The bedroom door was open again, wide, and the hallway beyond it was darker than it should be. On the phone, my sister's voice, flat, slow. "You shouldn't have come today." Behind me, the woman whispered, "Don't move." But something in me already knew that wasn't meant for me, because the voice on the phone changed. It wasn't my sister anymore. It wasn't the woman either. It was me. "Turn around," it said, and this time I did. The hallway wasn't empty, not completely. Something stood near the edge of it, not fully visible, like it was just outside the range of light. But I could see enough to know. It was shaped like a person, enough to know it was watching. Then it stepped forward, and the light didn't touch it. My phone slipped from my hand, hit the floor. The call didn't disconnect. I could still hear it. Still hear my own voice, repeating, "I left something." The woman grabbed my arm. "We need to go," she said. For the first time, I agreed without thinking. We ran, out of the room, out of the apartment, down the hallway. Neither of us looked back, but as we reached the stairs, I heard it, right behind me. Not footsteps, not breathing, just a voice, soft, right next to my ear. "You forgot it." I didn't stop. We didn't speak until we were outside. Real air, real light, real noise. Everything felt too normal, like nothing had happened. She looked at me. "What was that?" she asked. I shook my head. "I don't think it matters, because I already understood something simple, something worse than any explanation. It wasn't calling to talk. It wasn't calling to scare. It was calling to learn, to get the voice right. And next time, it wouldn't be close. It would be perfect." I didn't sleep after that. I sat with the light on, back against the headboard, staring at the wall until morning. My name, same handwriting as the chalkboard, same slow, careful strokes. But this wasn't the kitchen. This was my bedroom. At 6 a.m., I got up. The writing was still there. It meant it wasn't something that disappeared with daylight. It wasn't tied to time. It was tied to me. I went into the kitchen. The chalkboard was blank. For the first time since I'd moved in, I didn't erase anything. There was nothing to erase. I didn't go to work that day. I stayed in the house and set up more cameras. Kitchen, hallway, bedroom, living room, 4 angles, no blind spots. If something moved, I'd see it. If something wrote, I'd know how. Nothing happened. All day, I watched the feeds. Fast forwarded, rewound, empty rooms, still furniture, silent house. At 5:42 p.m., the kitchen camera flickered, just for a second. Not enough to glitch the recording, just enough to feel intentional. I replayed that moment. Frame by frame, everything looked normal, until I saw it. The chalk. It had shifted. Not much, just slightly off from where I remembered it being. I went into the kitchen. The board was still blank. But the chalk wasn't on the tray anymore. It was standing upright, balanced, like someone had just placed it there. I didn't touch it. I stepped back, and that's when I noticed something worse. There was dust on the floor, chalk dust, a faint line, starting from the board, trailing across the kitchen, into the hallway. I followed it, slowly, like I already knew I shouldn't. The line led to the bedroom, my bedroom. The door was open. I hadn't left it open. Inside, the wall was clean. My name was gone, but the dust trail continued, across the floor, up the side of the bed onto the pillow where I had slept. I backed out of the room, closed the door, locked it. That didn't make me feel better. That night I stayed in the living room, lights on, TV on, volume low. I didn't want silence. At 1:13 a.m., my phone buzzed. Camera notification. Motion detected. Bedroom. I didn't open it immediately. I sat there, staring at the notification, letting it sit, as if not looking would keep it contained. Then I opened it. The room was dark. The camera adjusted slowly, grainy, black and gray. The door was still closed, locked. Then, movement. Near the wall, the chalk, floating. Again, it pressed against the wall and started writing. Slow, deliberate, careful, like it had all the time in the world. I watched my own name appear, letter by letter. Then something else. Below it, I leaned closer to the screen. Say it. The chalk dropped. The feed froze. I didn't move for a long time. Then, from the hallway, a sound, soft, barely there, whispering. I turned toward it, heart steady, too steady, like it had skipped fear and gone straight to something else. The whisper came again. My name. Not from the phone, not from the camera, from the house. I stood up, slowly, walked toward the hallway. Each step felt expected, like I was following instructions I hadn't heard. The bedroom door was open. I was sure I had locked it. Inside, the wall was different. Not just my name, the entire wall was covered. My name, over and over, layered, written at different sizes, some neat, some rushed, hundreds of them. And in the middle, a space, blank, waiting. The whisper came again, closer now. Say it. I understood something then, not fully, but enough. It hadn't been learning my voice. It had been waiting for me to hear it. All those messages, all those days. It wasn't talking to me, it was teaching me how to listen. The chalk lifted again, in the air, in front of me. It wrote in the empty space, yours. The whisper stopped. Silence, complete, heavy. I stood there, looking at the wall, at my name, at all the versions of it that didn't sound like me anymore. Then I heard it. Not from the room, not from the hallway. From inside my head, my voice, perfect, saying my name, but I hadn't spoken. And I realized it didn't need to write anymore. It didn't need the chalk or the walls or the house, because now I could hear it, anytime, anywhere. And sometimes, when I'm not thinking, I answer back.